The air was thick and still, smelling of freshly cut grass and the faint ozone of nervous sweat. Chief Barker wiped a hand across his helmet visor, the polycarbonate feeling too thin against the silence. 23 faces, hard and young, were arrayed behind their shields. The line was perfect. "Remember the drill, people!" Barker's voice crackled over the short-range comms. "Shield wall tight, no openings. They look like props, but they're not. They will stab." Through a gap in the line, he saw the Romans. A squat, red-crested tide marching toward the barricades 50 yards away. They moved with an unsettling, ancient precision, a single organism of leather, iron, and wood. One of them, a centurion with a grim, scarred face, barked a single, rhythmic command. It wasn't in English, but the meaning was clear. Kill. Barker felt a cold knot tighten in his gut. This wasn't a protest. This was an ambush from 2 millennia ago. He gripped the handle of his baton. What if a modern, non-lethal riot control unit, trained only to maintain order, enters a battle against the ultimate ancient infantry killing machine, a squad of Roman legionnaires? Could discipline and technology triumph over raw, brutal doctrine and steel? The riot police line stood like a low, blue-black wall. These were the best from the capital, specialists in non-compliance. Their doctrine was simple: containment, de-escalation, and disruption. L.T. Reyes, a 10-year veteran, shifted her weight, the $200,000 worth of gear feeling like a suit of medieval armor. We fight with what we brought. No lethal firearms, 2 OC dispensers, 4 launchers for flashbangs and beanbags. We cannot afford to lose the line. If it breaks, they're inside our ODA loop. The police objective: rout the Roman formation and disperse them within 10 minutes using only less lethal force. Their edge: polycarbonate shields that were lighter and stronger against non-ballistic impact than anything Rome ever forged. Their constraint: no lethal response. A single baton strike had to be effective, not fatal. The machine. Across the field, Centurion Titus felt the vibration of the ground beneath his caligae. He smelled the blood and bronze of countless campaigns on his tunic, a smell he preferred to the antiseptic odor of the soft-skinned enemy approaching. This was not war, this was a slaughter lesson. His 23 men, a contubernium reinforced, were a perfect engine of shock and awe. The doctrine: maximum damage, maximum cohesion. 2 pila per man, Titus growled, his voice carrying over the thump of their own march. Scutum tight. First throw at 15 paces, second at 5. Then we draw the Gladius and apply the meat grinder. The Roman objective: shatter the enemy formation, kill or disable every man, and hold the ground. Their edge was discipline and the pilum, a heavy javelin designed not just to kill, but to lock in a shield and drag it down. Their constraint: no reserve, no archers, only the steel in their hands and the memory of the discipline that had forged an empire. The gap was closing. Both forces focused on the barricades, a simple line of wooden construction meant to simulate an urban choke point. The tempo of the engagement was about to hit 0. At the 50-pace mark, Centurion Titus gave the signal. No Roman would break step for a throw. His men continued their steady march until the line was within the police's effective engagement range. "Warning! Warning!" Barker barked. "Target acquisition! Prepare for impact!" At 20 paces, the air filled with the heavy whistling sound of the first pila throw. 24 iron-headed spears trailing wood shafts arched down range. The police shields, designed for bricks and bottles, buckled under the kinetic energy of 1,000 years of anti-shield development. Crack! Thud. Officer Chen went down with a gasp. A pilum tip had pierced his shield just below the viewport, its thin, soft iron neck bending instantly to pin the shield to his armored vest. The weight and leverage dragged him to the grass, his leg twisting. 2 other shields were similarly impacted, the spears pinning them down and making them impossible to raise. "Shields are locked! 3 down!" Reyes yelled, adrenaline spiking. "Barker, give me disruption now!" The Romans, meanwhile, had dropped their shields a fraction of a second to launch their second volley at 10 paces. But the police were faster. Fire and flash! The air exploded with almost a physical force. 4 stun grenades, designed to overload the human sensory system, detonated at the feet of the Roman line. At the same time, 2 men with less lethal launchers fired beanbag rounds in OC spray canisters. The Romans, their segmentata and helmets, effective against blades but not against sound and light, staggered. The noise was blinding, concussive. The flash in the sunlit field left spots dancing behind their eyes. The pepper spray, aerosolized in a cloud of fine burning particles, instantly bypassed the gaps in their cheek guards. Tustus roared in pain, a blinding, searing sensation overwhelming his eyes. Discipline held, but the rhythm was gone. The legionaries stopped their advance, hacking and spitting, their perfect cohesion gone in a single, paralyzing moment.
The breaching maneuver. This was the police's window. Forward, advance, advance, keep the line, batons hot, Barker commanded, leveraging the Romans' temporary paralysis. The police line surged across the final 10 yards. They used their shields not just for defense, but as battering rams. They slammed the edges of their polycarbonate walls into the Romans, specifically into the unprotected throats and shoulders where the armor plates met. Titus, half blind and gagging, was hit with the full force of a shield boss. The impact threw him back 2 feet. Before he could recover, Riot was on him, her baton swinging in a practiced, sharp arc designed for joint compliance. The Gladius had cleared his scabbard, but the police baton, a lightweight, impact-focused stick, met his forearm with a bone-jarring crack. He dropped the sword with a strangled cry. The tipping point. The melee was now a desperate, brutal, close-quarters fight. The police, using short, sharp pepper spray bursts from belt-mounted canisters, fought a close-range battle against the Roman Gladius. The Romans, recovering from the initial flashbang shock, were now fighting with the savagery of professional killers. A legionary, ignoring the sting of OC, used his scutum edge to hook and pull a police officer's shield, exposing the man's flank. Before the officer could react, the Gladius plunged forward, striking not through the armor, but against the joint of the shoulder guard in the throat. It was a crippling blow, designed to sever muscle and artery. The officer went down in a heap, the red mark blossoming on his throat, a testament to the steel's lethality. Losses mounted. 5 police officers were severely disabled by Gladius strikes, their armor proving insufficient against the focused thrust of the Roman short sword. 6 legionaries were convulsing on the ground, temporarily blinded or concussed, their discipline overwhelmed by chemical and kinetic force. The resource limit had been hit. The police were out of stun grenades and down to their last canister of OC spray. The Romans were out of pila and committed to the messy, tiring work of the sword. The fatigue was setting in. Chapter 3. Cohesion versus attrition. The decision point. Chief Barker saw the blood on the ground and the ferocity of the counterattack. The police's mandate, non-lethal dispersal, was proving incompatible with the Romans' mandate, lethal annihilation. The line was dissolving into individual, desperate duels. He looked at Riot. We need to break their will. Lieutenant, one final focused action. Take your squad and target the command structure. Do not let them reform the box. Riot understood. Her shield scratched deep and her visor fogged. The Roman machine relied on its structure. Without Titus, the individual cogs would still fight, but they wouldn't function as a unit. Riot led her 3 remaining able-bodied officers in a wedge, focusing the remaining OC spray into a tight, targeted stream. They advanced on the spot where Titus lay struggling to rise. They bypassed the Roman soldiers and slammed their shields against the body of Titus. 2 officers grabbed his limbs while Riot deployed her last non-lethal launcher round, a heavy foam-tipped slug directly into his chest plate. The centurion gasped, the wind knocked completely out of him, his body limp. The machine stopped. The remaining Roman legionaries, masters of the structured fight, suddenly looked around and saw not their disciplined centurion, but a scattering of individual enemies. The discipline of 20 centuries was based on command. Without the bark of Titus, the system dissolved into confusion. The remaining Riot police, bloodied but unbowed, formed a rough semicircle around the Roman flank, using their shields to push, not strike. They were exploiting the final flaw. The Roman soldier was trained to fight forward, not to manage a rout. Result: the fight ended not with a slaughter, but with a strategic rout. The Roman force, deprived of command and overwhelmed by sensory deprivation and non-lethal but debilitating blows, broke formation. They retreated from the field, their doctrine having no mechanism for handling a non-lethal enemy who refused to die and refused to be killed. Alternate histories. Scenario 1. Lethal police response. If Chief Barker had authorized lethal force, standard issue sidearms, the engagement would have been over in 45 seconds. 3 rounds of pistol fire would have killed Titus, and the other legionaries would have broken immediately upon realizing the nature of the enemy's projectile lethality. Technology would have trivially won. Scenario 2. Police equipment failure. If the stun grenades had been damp or the OC spray ineffective due to wind, a common friction point, the Romans would have been unhindered. They would have closed the short sword range without disruption, and the heavier, more durable scutum would have been an unbreakable wall against the lighter police shields. The Romans would have won via total annihilation, the Gladius making short work of the joints in the modern armor. Conclusion. The modern Riot police, despite their initial casualties, ultimately won by leveraging disruption and exploiting the Roman reliance on command structure. The pilum proved brutally effective, but the psychological warfare of the stun grenade and OC spray trumped the sheer lethality of the Gladius. The era's conditions, the flat open field, and the police's self-imposed non-lethal restriction absorbed the shock, forcing a close-quarters attrition battle. But ultimately, the ability to temporarily blind and disable a perfectly disciplined infantry formation proved the game changer. The 21st century's ability to wage war on the senses was too much for first century discipline. Debrief. The clash showed that doctrine matters more than raw equipment. The police won because their objective, dispersal and control, was met by a technology that disabled the enemy's senses. The Romans' objective, annihilation, was countered by non-lethal tools that were, paradoxically, highly effective against their ancient discipline. Takeaway 1. Precision over power. Non-lethal sensory overload is a highly effective, even decisive weapon against a perfectly cohesive, high-discipline infantry formation. Takeaway 2. The commander's weight. The loss of the centurion Titus was the single most critical event. Roman doctrine did not have a resilient succession plan for a battlefield where the leadership was suddenly, non-lethally disabled. Takeaway 3. Friction is physics. The Roman pilum proved the closest thing to a modern anti-shield weapon, proving that 2,000 years of physics still applied. Change one rule. What would you tweak? Give the police a drone for remote tear gas deployment, or give the Romans a ballista? Let us know in the comments.